are outstanding in the industries that they work in, of employers who are contributing to the skilling of their workforce, and there is a national recognition and award function for all those people, and that's celebrated annually in Australia and I think supported by every Skills Council. And I think one of the biggest things that as a fledgling skills development area that you probably are seeing happening in India is your industry leadership. That actually is critical to getting skills on the ground. Australia's been doing this for a long time, and probably our industry leadership is not quite as strong as it was when we started. But that's because it's built into and part of our culture now. When you're trying to build it up and start it up, that industry leadership is what will actually get you where you need to be. So I think that's all I would have for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeanette. Now it's over to the panel to my right. And so first I'll invite Arthur. This is Arthur's second visit to India. He is the CEO of the Agri-Food Skills USA. And over to you, Arthur.
Thank you very much. I just remember about 9 years ago, I was wandering along the Sydney beach with my daughter, and someone rang me and said, would you like to work for Agri-Food Industry Skills Council? And I went quiet and I said, well, who are they? And do they have any money? Not much. Do they have an office? No. Do they have any staff? No. And I said no. But unfortunately, the person was very persistent. But I have to say it's been a wonderful journey and certainly a great way to build an organisation. I'm just making Satenda feel much better because it's you start from scratch, and we've had small beginnings, but we think we've done some pretty good things. I guess we look after the agri-food industry, which comprises agriculture, horticulture, pharmaceuticals, food processing, meat processing, and seafood, and racing, both horses and dogs. So it's quite a broad range of activities, and people giggle a bit. But importantly, we also look after wine, which adds a bit of value to the process. Across those industries, an enormous amount of commonality. One is that most of them are based in regional Australia, and importantly, most of them have common needs. Most of them are short of good people, and most of them are trying to attract and retain people who tend not to see those industries as somewhere you'd particularly like to work if you're a talented young person. I want to talk today just about what skill councils and sector skills councils deliver to industry, because at the end of the day, we want in agri-food to be measured about what we deliver to enterprises. What value do we bring after the significant investment we make that actually brings them more productivity and indeed more profitability? It's not much point being in business just to be productive. You need to be profitable, and you also need to have a sustainable outlook, if you like, in the sort of industry you're in. And Australia's got a fairly difficult environment right now economically because it's got a high-cost economy, it's over-regulated, and importantly, they're looking to rely on high-quality people to make sure they can be more effective, more productive, and deliver a globally competitive workforce. We all have to, whether you're producing here or anywhere now, you have to be globally competitive because you've got to measure yourself against what others are doing. And to do that, you have to have a workforce with that capability. Our industry now wants more informal training. We call them skill sets, not a full qualification, which gets you started in a job, but importantly allows you to grow in that job and get a qualification if you can, if you want. We do a lot of courses to help people get started, and certainly the new age young farmers come in and want to do programs that build their businesses and sustain their businesses, and also break away from some of the standards that their fathers and grandfathers taught them. So they're seeking to break away, and they're looking for skills, particularly high-level skills, to achieve that. Now, they'll get those skills anywhere. They'll get them online, they'll get them from Stanford, they'll get them however they can. But again, we try and encourage them to consolidate those through the process of getting accreditation in due course. Just quickly, coming back to what you need to do to be a skill council successfully, I think the first thing you need to do is, as most of us have said, you have to engage with industry. It's not communicating with industry. You have to engage face-to-face, direct, as often as you can. And of course, that's an extraordinary challenge in India. It's an extraordinary challenge in Australia. You have to also sell them a value proposition. What are you going to offer them if they give you their time to actually listen to you, and importantly, to take advantage of getting to understand a training culture and the value of investing in training and skills development? And importantly, what can you offer their business in terms of its productivity and its capacity to be more sustainable after you've been there. So there's some things we do. I think the industry intelligence capture, which a couple of us have mentioned, is critical to what we do, because what we do ours pretty much face-to-face. We don't do many surveys. We find now that structural change is taking place so quickly in Australia, you have to talk to people regularly to find out where they're up to. You can find a business that's highly productive, flying along, 6 months later it's in strife. And certainly some of our food industries have hit that rock in the last 6 to 9 months and gone to other places because of lower costs. The other thing they're doing is moving to automation where they can, moving away from people because of cost to automation because sometimes it's more efficient. That's got some social issues, but importantly, if you're going to stay in business, you do what you can. Finally, I think there's a few things that we've been fairly risk-taking, if you like. We've tried stuff, we've piloted stuff, we've tested stuff, because that allows you to show new things to industry. We've also tried to shape industry thinking. I think once you get a bit of a reputation for doing reliable things and delivering the fundamentals like training, workforce development, you can stretch out and do that. And certainly some of the innovation we've done about regional Australia has been quite effective in terms of working with other skill councils. So do those things, try those things that are valuable to industry, and they'll take those up. We've also done some work in schools in getting, we've got an issue around the perception of our industries in schools. So we're doing some work now in training 800 teachers to understand agriculture and food, and also getting to about 8,000 city-based kids, students, in years 5 and 6 and 9 and 10, to get them to understand at least where their food comes from. When they get that plate of breakfast, it doesn't just turn up, it's got to be cooked and value added, and there's the sort of things we're trying to get through. Finally, we work along the supply chain. That's where the future jobs are going to be, and that's what will appeal and attract some of our younger people. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. I think Philip made all the Australian delegates do a special course of how to capture everything in 5 minutes. It's really phenomenal. I've been writing and writing. So over to the CEO who is responsible for skilling 108 million people from the Indian agriculture sector, Dr. Satyendra Arya.
I think Mr. Basa Banerjee has just doubled my targets, taking opportunity of this public platform. But before coming to the industry's benefits for the agriculture sector, which is contributing about 14% to the national GDP and employing about almost 50% of the workforce, at the cost of repeating the same things, let me restate the benefits that the industry is getting, especially in the Indian context. If you see in the last few months when the sector skill councils have been supporting and validating the various occupational standards, by doing so, they have become the main player in the skilling rather than being a peripheral player, which they have been doing the skilling all through, but they have never been the central player. Secondly, we are also looking at the increased output because any of the occupational standards are leading to the meeting the requirement of the industry with the specific needs. So what happens is, like say for example, if we have developed the occupational standard for tea plantation worker or coffee plantation worker, if that particular worker knows how to prune properly, the productivity goes up and the tea or the plantation company benefits from that. The thirdly is, say for example, besides occupational standards, which we have been hearing for quite some time, the Indian sector skill councils are also doing the skill gap studies, development of skill inventory, development of a labor market information system, and these things are happening for the first time. Because today, when we see the Indian plantations down south or the northeast, there is a severe labor crunch. Of course, the unemployment is on the rise, but yet at the same time, if there was a proper forecasting system in the place, we could have predicted this particular shortage some time back. If the textile industry is today facing a lot of shortage of the skilled labor because of the migrant population which has stopped coming from areas like Bihar and Odisha, if this could have been forecasted a few years back, the appropriate skilling initiatives could have been taken. Another thing is the Sector Skill Council, as Arthur said, it is going to play a very, very important role for creating awareness and demonstrating that particular skill contribution to the national economy and to the younger generation. Also, as far as the agriculture is concerned, I think we are also going to be very, very careful that we do contribute to the inclusive development through involvement of the agriculture-based companies, especially when it comes to the development of the marginal farmers, inclusion of the women, because in Indian context, somehow the contribution of women farmers is neglected. Whenever there are some skilling initiatives or some extension programs, it's the, the male gender which comes forward, and though they might be only nowadays, spending very less time on the fields. It's the woman which is there. And also, we need to also, another good achievement would be if we are able to contribute for engagement of people with disabilities into the agriculture sector, and I think that would be also one of our key concern areas. Also, Indian it's very important for us, the SSC activities, because the Indian agriculture is employing almost 40% of the illiterate population, as compared to 33% in the non-manufacturing sector, 20% in the manufacturing sector, and 13% in the service sector. Of course, in the Indian Sector Skill Council, we are covering all the areas such as agriculture and the allied areas involving dairy, fishery, and poultry. Of late, the livestock as a contributor to the agriculture GDP, it has already bypassed the grains contribution to the GDP, so livestock and the dairying sector also becomes very much an association of India, and besides the involvement of the government bodies. Here I would also like to emphasize that by doing skilling activities, they are not, the industry is not doing a charity, they are helping their own business also in a big way. Say for example, if a John Deere, skills their people on the harvester, which is the need of the hour of the farm mechanization, they are increasing their business also. Because on one side, we have a demand of the harvesters in down South India, but we have got harvesters moving from a North Indian state all throughout the next 5 states in successive line. Similarly, if a seed company is promoting into the seed, the batter seed production at the ground level, they are contributing to their own business also. Okay, the last one thing, I think, Sector Skill Council has also provided another platform for the industry where they can engage with the government, and it's an ideal example of PPP platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Satyendra. I think you can go on for a long time talking about the agriculture sector. Sorry to just cut you short. And we have said